Gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion? Is there
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, trying. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. It is Thursday, May 15th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. A beautiful Thursday here in the Quad Cities, almost a summer-like Thursday. It's interesting. I'm learning here as I do the show. We started in January when it was cold up here. I remember Andrew Lehman and others complaining because it was a little chilly up in the loft. So we had heaters and all that kind of stuff. it's going to get hot this summer. Wait till you guys see me doing the show and shirt and t-shirt and shorts and all that kind of stuff, because it's going to get a little warm in the loft at the Randazzo estate. But excited to do the show this summer, and of course to do the show here today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Up over 1,000 subscribers, which is awesome, but keep subscribing. If you have subscribed, thank you. If you have not, do so. Like, comment, all those things that help us out. And also let people know what we're doing each and every day here in the Quad Cities. 10 a.m. off the air with Matt Randazzo. We are also live on X, as we are each and every day. And then, as I tell you, you can go check it out on the podcasting platforms as well. We're up on Spotify, Podbean, Apple, you name it. Wherever you get your podcast, you should be able to find Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. If there's a place that you get your podcast that you cannot find the show, let me know. I'll make sure we get the show up there as soon as possible. One big programming note to get to. I've been telling you guys about it all week, but coming up tomorrow on Friday's OTA, we'll be joined by Illinois football coach Brett Bielema. Extremely excited about that. Brett recently signed a nice extension at the University of Illinois, and he's leading a Final Night program that has a lot of success, coming off a 10-win season a year ago. They have a lot of expectations, I should say, as well. So excited to have Brett Bielema join the show tomorrow, Friday, right here on OTA. Of course, we had Kirk Ferentz a couple Fridays ago, so we thank both of them for taking the time to chat with me. Very, very exciting. So that is tomorrow's show. We got a lot to get to today. Coming up in just a little bit, we're going to talk NFL football schedules. And when I started this show, I wasn't going to, and I'm not going to get too much into national sports, but the NFL's simply different. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody loves it. Locally, it's very well listened to, talked about when it comes to the Bears, Packers, Vikings, even Lions. So coming up in just a little bit, I'm going to be joined by Larry Hawley, longtime media personality in the state of Illinois. Recently, his last one was at WGN, in Chicago. So he's covered the Bears for a long time. Very active on social media as well. Great human being, really good guy. We're going to talk about the Bears schedule, how it came out, the headlines from it, and we'll go through and kind of figure out where we each have the Bears, maybe record-wise, after this fall. So he's coming up in a matter of moments. Excited about that. Also, it's Thursday. We usually do a Throwback Thursday, and we kind of have a Throwback Thursday. Greg Armstrong's going to join us, and it's not really a out-of-the-blue Throwback Thursday where we haven't heard from Greg for a long time. Greg, a good friend, and contributes to the show a lot. But going to catch up with him about a couple different things, some news and notes from high school football, with coaches coming, coaches going. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Also, what Friday nights are like. Last Friday night, we had Dan Pearson on the show, and that was super exciting. Somebody he's worked with, I've worked with. So we'll kind of talk about Friday night football, how it all comes together, those kind of things. So Greg Armstrong coming up on the show as well, and much, much more. If you haven't checked out the show this week, on Monday we had Kendra Lewis, Pat Angerer, and Josh Keener from the Blackhawk softball program. Kendra Lewis, first team All Big Ten as a freshman. Very cool. So go check out that one on Monday. On Tuesday, we talked with Andrew Lehman because it was 50 days until the John Deere Classic. Now it's 48 days until the John Deere Classic. So a lot to get to with Andrew. He shared with us that TJ Hawkinson and Riley Moss will both be at the John Deere Classic Pro-Am on Wednesday of John Deere Classic week. So that was cool. Also, Kyle Huseman joined us talking about Iowa baseball. The Hawkeyes start a huge series this evening at home, looking for their first Big Ten regular season championship since 1990. So get ready for that series by going back and checking out Thursday's show. Also, David Gamble, the head soccer coach from Davenport North, joined us on Tuesday as well. Yesterday, Joe Wieskamp was on the show. We had our Steam Wheeler Wednesday, and the Rock Island softball team won the Western Big Six Championship. Their head coach, Julie Hudnall, joined us yesterday as well. So go check out the shows from this week here in a little bit, but we do have a lot to get to today, and we're talking about the NFL. Everybody's always talking about the NFL. So let's talk about the Bears. And joining me now is a guy who covered Chicago sports for a couple decades, Larry Hawley. We used to be at WGN and knows a little something about covering the Bears. First and foremost, Larry, thank you for doing this. I appreciate your time, my friend.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love doing this even after my media career, at least in the traditional, kind of came to an end. I still do my fun videos on social media, but it's great to do this. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. And I'll kind of give a little background. WGN was your last stop. Just, covering the Bears and just Chicago sports and sports in general is something you got to do for a couple decades, and I know you love doing it.
Yeah, and I was at WGN for, I was in Champaign. I was at a couple of stops, and Chicago was always there. I grew up in Rolling Meadows, which is a northwest suburb of Chicago. If you know the area, you know O'Hare Airport. We're about 8 miles northwest of there. So grew up watching some really great sports, had the Bulls dynasty of the 1990s. I was 5 years old when the Bears won the Super Bowl, so I have memories of when they were really, really good and were playing at consistently high levels in football. It's been a little erratic for the past 3 decades after that. But had the chance to do working at WGN as a producer. And then the best 2.5 years of my career were the last 2.5 years where I was a reporter. We did web. We did have a little bit of a web newscast that we did for a little bit. Very lucky and very fortunate to have had the career that I did. It's never lost on me, and happy now to transition to another Chicago company. I've been doing that now for about 18 months.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Hey, I honestly, are you 45?
I am 45 as of, let's see, about 3 days ago. So I turned 45 on May 11th. So
first and foremost, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Too am 45. When you said 5 years old when the Bears won the Super Bowl, I'm like, yeah, we are. Mm-hmm. And very similar because, I had a couple decades plus doing the crazy stuff. And it's about evolving a little bit too. And things change and in life, not just in media and sports and all that kind of stuff, but in life. So, I love the new venture that you're on, and I appreciate you helping me with the venture that I'm on right now. So obviously, big news yesterday, the schedule release. I love the fact that they pump it up for, Wednesday at 7 p.m. and then by Wednesday at noon, you probably already know it. Kind of the fun of it. Just talk about the release, what you see online on social media, and we already know about it usually before we get to that 7 o'clock big show for the NFL.
Well, I think it's funny just how much, and I've seen this written other places, about how much the National Football League schedule release is actually a big thing. It's not only just, it used to be one day, one email, one whatever. It's now like a couple of day event. You have your reveals on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I don't really get upset over the spoilers. I think they're kind of fun. You see where things are. You get a couple games that are leaked that are wrong. The Bears were rumored to be on Christmas since they were going to play on the Saturday before Christmas. That didn't end up happening. There were a couple of rumors about where they would open up. Now they open on Monday Night Football. I actually like the process. I think it's fun. I think if you can create some drama that's not ill-spirited drama, I don't think a schedule release is ill-spirited drama. I actually like it. If you can bring a little joy and a little excitement to fans here in mid-May, not long before training camp opens, I think it's a lot of fun. I kind of enjoy to see where things land and kind of the rumor mill kind of circling around.
It's amazing how smart the NFL is, and you almost want to shake Major League Baseball sometimes, or even the NBA, some of the other sports, because they stay prevalent throughout the year. I mean, you look at what the draft has become, and then this month they do the great job with the release of the schedule, and then you start camps in June. I mean, they stay relevant with something big almost every single month. That's something that I absolutely love about what they do. And I had a buddy yesterday kind of argue with me, like, why do we care about the schedule? We already knew who the teams were. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to plan what game I'm going to go to. I'm going to plan like what party I'm going to throw. The primetime games are big, all of those kind of things. So I do think the NFL does a fantastic job with it. I guess before we get into the actual this game, what were your overall headlines? What did you take out of when you saw the Bears schedule, maybe in print? What were some of the things that you kind of noticed or jumped out at you when it came to the Bears schedule the next year?
Well, how difficult it is to actually see it on paper. We knew the opponents that were going in, where they were going to go, but when you get it on paper, it looks really difficult. Just looking for the Bears, you obviously have competitive division games. All 3 division teams are pretty good this year, led by Detroit, who I know that you're a fan of, and they're going to be very good again. They've got a lot to play for. and things are going to be very, very difficult to start out there. But just some of your other games, Baltimore is always a tough team. You don't know what Cincinnati's going to have after they had what we consider to be a rough year, although they rallied and almost made the playoffs. You've got the reigning champion, Philadelphia. You got San Francisco, who I think is going to be rallying after they had injuries decimate their team last year. A lot of really, really difficult schedule. And, of course, back to the scene of the crime in Washington, which they're going to have on a Monday night in a game that certainly, in my mind, sank their season. Do I think the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl last year? No. Could they have been near the playoff line if they don't lose that game in the way they did? Maybe. It's definitely seeing the difficulty of that schedule. And when you see it print out, that's the first thing that really stood out to me.
Absolutely. One thing, and I, as a Lions fan, bugged me last year was the Lions had their bye week 5. And it makes any injury later in the year stack up and pile up, plus just fresh towards the end of the season and all that kind of stuff. And obviously we know what happened in the playoffs after going 15-2. They lay an egg in the first round, or their first playoff game after the bye. That's kind of jumped out quickly to me, was the fact that the Bears now have that first week bye. Does that, with a younger team, with a new coach, maybe a little more beneficial that you can play 4 games, and if you need to, not say hit a reset button, but kind of pull back a little bit and see what's working, what's not working? I guess your thoughts on an early bye week for the Chicago Bears.
It's probably not ideal, right? I mean, I know it's not perfect. I was in Indianapolis when the Colts had 2 early byes. One of those was, I think, 2008. And then in 2012, Andrew Luck's first year, they had a super early bye. They were actually week 4. You might remember that's when Chuck Pagano was diagnosed with leukemia. Yeah. It was a very unusual one. Now, how that works out, sometimes it's beneficial. The Bears lately have had a little bit later bye weeks. Sometimes it works out. I don't get that much caught up in it, but I could see as a Detroit fan, because last year Detroit, maybe a little bit like San Francisco, maybe not quite as severe, lost so many players because of injury. By the time you get to the playoffs, you're a little vulnerable, and the Commanders got them in an offensive shootout. But I'm not as worried about it. Is it ideal? Absolutely not. You want that bye week usually to be nestled somewhere either in early November, mid-November. It's not ideal, but certainly a concern that you brought up. If you start piling up injuries, you don't have really much of a chance to get a breath there. And the Bears don't have that Thursday game where you might get a Thursday to Sunday or a Thursday to Monday. Yeah. Bears fans might remember in 2022, one of the eras of the Matt Eberflus era that went really well, the Bears lost to the Commanders in October on a Thursday night, came out and played the Patriots on a Monday night, made a lot of adjustments in that kind of mini bye, and actually looked a lot better. The Bears actually were able to do something offensively and creatively with Luke Getsy after that little bit of time. I must admit, I look a little bit about it. You do have a Friday to Sunday, so you get a little bit of a break like that. But when it comes to the Black Friday game, but again, to me, it's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Okay, so I have 4 boys, but one of them, a couple of them, they just dislike the Bears. They're like their dad. I've raised them well, and they get frustrated over the fact that he's like, Dad, the Bears stink, but they still get the primetime games. Like, why do they always have the primetime games? And they're Chicago. I explained they're Chicago, big market. There's always the Bears and all that kind of stuff. But there are, I want to do quick math, 4 primetime games, or 4 games that they're. Yeah, 2 Monday nights, a Sunday night, a Black Friday. So 4 games where they're kind of in a primetime area. Mm-hmm. Bears fans love that, and they're going to get that just simply because they are the Bears. Win, lose, or draw, they have a lot of eyes always on them, don't they?
And they do, and I think that there's intrigue with this team. I think Ben Johnson being the number 1 coaching prospect, I would say probably for 2 coaching cycles, if to be fair with you. He could have probably 100%. Gone somewhere last year. So he's an intriguing guy, and of course they're in the division, so they'll play 2 games. You still have Caleb Williams, who I think is exciting, a number 1 draft pick as a quarterback for a team that has struggled to find a quarterback since the Sid Luckman days, at least consistently, because Jim McMahon was pretty good, and we've seen rises here and there as we've gone along. And you mentioned the Bears are always a team that is of great interest. It's a blue blood franchise in the National Football League. Big market. I compare it to being like Green Bay or Dallas, where you can have a national fan base. I think maybe the Bears' national fan base might even be a little bigger. If they had been a little better, You're now a full generation removed from them, not only winning a Super Bowl, but being consistently a contender. Lovey was probably the closest to get it to there from 2005 through probably about 2012. They didn't make the playoffs every year, but they were knocking on the door a fair amount of those years. So I think when you have all those elements together, the Bears are an attractive package for any major network. So they end up on there maybe a little longer than it would be.
I love it. When you get that schedule, and I think one of the releases early was that Monday night game against the Vikings. And I know history, Monday night, opening on Monday Night Football doesn't happen very often at all for many teams, more or less the Bears. When you hear about that Vikings game, a home game at Soldier Field, two quarterbacks in the same class, most likely, J.J. McCarthy and Caleb Williams, there's a lot to like and a lot to be excited. So an excitement for the Bears escalated with the fact that Game 1 is going to be on Monday Night Football in front of the entire world. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and Monday Night Football, to me, a sports fan of a certain age, still means a lot. You know, I grew up in the era. I wasn't there for the 70s and the Cosell and with Dandy Don and with Frank and, you know, even going back to like Keith Jackson even before that, where it was a cultural phenomenon. It was still a big deal, and that was back in the day where you didn't have 100 places that had the ability to watch games. Monday Night Football was must-watch football. Even if the team wasn't in it. And if the Bears were in it, it was a really big deal. You sat around, you waited. Some of my favorite Bears memories and some of my non-favorite Bears memories come from Monday Night Football. So for me, it's significant. Their first Monday night opener since 97 when they played the reigning world champion Green Bay Packers at Lambeau. The last time they were at home against the reigning world champion Dallas Cowboys, they actually won that game. It was probably, you know, if you look at it, ended up being probably the high point of what was left of the Wannstedt era. They beat the Cowboys 22-6. A lot of people remember, for those Bears fans, Brian Cox, the former Western Illinois star who had become great with the Dolphins, signed a huge deal with the Bears in the offseason. He was joining for the first time. Emmitt Smith actually hurt his neck that night. That's one thing that I remember. It was a very serious injury to a great player. But yeah, there's an aura around Monday Night Football for fans of my age. I think for all Bears fans, there's something to be about being about under the lights, especially on Monday night. So it's a special way to open the season. And you hope that maybe it signals a special season. It's hard to say. The NFL is fickle. It's weird. But at the very least, it's a big stage for a big moment for the Bears, debuting what you could argue is their biggest coaching hire, at least on the surface in their franchise's history. I mean, I know what Ditka turned out to be the biggest, but it's certainly a high-profile thing with a high-profile draft pick. Lots to be looking forward to, and a lot of storylines going in.
Which is funny that I thought there was a decent chance Week 1 would be Lions-Bears because of said storyline with Ben Johnson, and I didn't know if it would be in Chicago. I didn't know if it would be in Detroit, where it would be. That's now Week 2. And I'm surprised just about the fact that it's a noon game. And obviously, it's funny because people look poorly upon noon games. And it's like, wait, it's going to be, and as media guys, you probably loved media or noon games because you could hit deadlines easier and all that kind of stuff. But I was surprised it wasn't a primetime game. Your thoughts on that first game between Detroit? Was it just too easy? Was it too much of a slam dunk to have that be opening night? Ben Johnson returns to Detroit, that kind of thing?
Well, I actually predicted that the Bears would actually open with the Eagles. I thought that might actually happen. I figured it'd be an attractive storyline. The last time the Eagles played after they won the championship, they hosted Atlanta, which is kind of, Atlanta being the team that had, the year before removed had, almost won the Super Bowl. I actually thought the Bears might be a candidate there. I thought NBC would look at it. You've got Major City. You've got new hot coaching prospect. You have second year of Caleb Williams. I thought the Bears were maybe a possibility to get in that first game. At the end, sometimes you think simply you bring in the Cowboys, the biggest audience, you do that. I maybe a little bit. I actually thought the first game in Detroit would be a primetime game. I thought that could be a Sunday nighter. I thought maybe it would be a little bit later. Maybe they'd let the teams establish itself. Its placing is surprising to me personally. Noon, it is what it is. But yes, I thought that would be maybe a contest that could be slated for a Sunday nighter, especially considering that Detroit has been so good and they are a big story in the NFL and I think will be for a little while here. So I'm a little surprised it's not prime time. The placement of the game is interesting. It's so early. But then again, this is how you scramble up the storylines. And this will make for an interesting Week 2 thing. You'll definitely be at the top of those lists. Yeah,
and being in media, you can't have everything at the top of the show. Sometimes throughout the season, you have to have good things throughout the season. That is definitely what they have. I'm going to go and kind of maybe do a little prediction thing here in a second. But you look at some tough stretches for the Bears, and you mentioned going to Baltimore and to Cincinnati back-to-back weeks, and then there's also to Philly, to Green Bay back-to-back weeks. When you look at the schedule in general, is there a hard patch that you look at that say that's going to be rough? And then where's the soft spot in the schedule? And hey, if you think the Bears is hard, I'm a Lions fan, I looked at that going, I mean, their road games, Detroit's road games are the 3 in the division: Kansas City, Philadelphia, Washington, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the Rams. All playoff teams. So and there's a few things difference between the two, but for the most part, both teams extremely difficult schedules. Is there a softer spot in the schedule?
I mean, I guess if you look at it, your softer spot might be, you have that early. You got Dallas. They've been here and there, and they're kind of teetering. Las Vegas is building, New Orleans is building, but then you got that Washington, game that's in there. There really isn't a soft spot. And one thing I think, and just kind of looking at the schedule again, the Bears are going to have another hard finish. Let me give you there from November on. You're at Minnesota. You go home to Pittsburgh. I know that they're figuring stuff out, but they're always Pittsburgh. At Eagles, at Green Bay. You get a Cleveland game at home, and Cleveland's kind of in their own world. Then you go Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit to finish. Yeah. So you're going to end up last year where if the Bears have a bad start, things don't get off well, and you're not improving, things can really get off the rails. So, it's a very difficult schedule. I think the winning percentage was top 3 or maybe even top 2 of their opponents. There isn't really a soft spot other than maybe September. You're home for Dallas. You go to the Raiders. You have the game at Washington, then you come home for New Orleans. I mean, I guess that's 4 games where you might have a shot, and you feel good about maybe 3 of them.
Yeah, and that Washington game is off a bye. So, at least you have a bye to prepare for a Monday night game and all that kind of stuff. I would say, you want to I don't want to say stockpile wins, but a fast start is important because, as you mentioned, the back half. But then again, Larry, we sit here and we thought that the Cincinnati would be a Super Bowl team last year, and they struggled almost. They got hot late. I get that, but so you never know what injuries, what happened, and there's always teams you don't expect to be good, and then teams that take a step back. So that's the beauty of playing the games. All right, well, let's go through some schedules and kind of. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to keep track. We'll do win-loss, and we'll see what you come up. I joked with you before we started. I don't love this because it's hard to predict a November game when you don't know who's healthy, who's not, all those kind of things. They're similar to draft grades, but everybody's got to do them, and everybody loves listening to them, but we don't know about draft grades till 3-4 years off that. So, all right, Monday Night Football, and I was blown away. I think O'Connell's one of the best coaches in football. And so really impressed with what they did last year. I thought they'd be one of the worst teams I thought the Bears might be better than them in the division, and they go ahead and win 14 games. So really good team, really good coaching staff, brand new quarterback who's never played, most likely with J.J. McCarthy, going to Soldier Field on a Monday night with all the storylines. What do you got? Bears, Vikings, Monday Night Football in Chicago.
I think the Bears get that one for a couple reasons. Number one, I think you're going to have a lot of that energy with a new coach. The Vikings will be probably having that new quarterback. I think that there's a lot there, a lot for the Bears that's riding on that contest. I think the Bears might actually get that one, and it's not a slight to the Vikings. And one thing that's interesting to me is with a 17-game schedule and one less preseason game, in my mind, and I don't know if people are going to think this is right, that first regular season game, in my mind, almost ends up like a preseason game because you're really still trying to figure out kind of who you are, where you're going. So you can see some weird things that might happen that week one that really are kind of setting you up it's almost like another setup game. And yes, it counts. It matters. You missed by a game, and it certainly did. But I think teams are still kind of figuring themselves out, even in the week one, even in the week two. So I think the Bears might get that. It's Monday night. Caleb comes into his second year. There's a lot of energy that goes into that. And I think the Bears might pick up that win.
Yeah,
that's just how I feel, but you never know.
I think you hit a nail on the head when it comes to that first game. Like, as a Lions fan, couple years, and they've gotten both of them, but they didn't look great against Kansas City. Got a couple turnovers and won that game. Hey, you won an Arrowhead, so I can't say you didn't look good. But even last year, they started slow, and it was one of those guys. And I don't know how Ben Johnson's going to do it with I think probably Caleb and company almost have to play a little bit more in the preseason because it's a new system, all those kind of things. But I'm curious how much they do play in the preseason to be ready for a first week game. I flip a coin. I just love, and I love Ben Johnson, which now my kids call Benedict Johnston, but that's a different story. So I'm going to go loss because I love the staff there, but it's a rookie quarterback. So I don't know what J.J. McCarthy is going to look like. It's a coin flip. I'm just going to go loss. At Detroit, week 2, does Ben Johnson come off a Monday Night Football and win or lose and go back to Detroit and get a victory?
That seems like a Detroit win there for me. I think Detroit's got, and they'll have a lot to play for in that game too. If you think about it with all their, with the fans coming back and Ben coming back and, Dan Campbell now having a different era now, and his thing is he has to replace a lot of assistants as he kind of goes forward now with the Detroit and trying to, produce what I would consider one of the great American stories left, American sports stories left. We knew here in Chicago with the Cubs winning the World Series. In my mind, for the NFL, the great stories for me are Detroit winning a Super Bowl or Cleveland winning that Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think it's a big thing. It's a big game for Detroit. I think in some ways I talk about that opener being a big game for the Bears because of so much there. I think that's a big game for Detroit, to show, hey, our number one guy left, but we still have a lot of talent here. We still have a lot of things here. And we're confident in our coach, Dan Campbell, that he's going to get something done. So I think that game probably is going to be one that's won by Detroit.
I hope you're right. Bless your heart. I hope you're right. By the way, just for viewers, I'm going to switch the first win to a win. After I'm sitting here thinking, if the Bears don't win the first game of this new regime on Monday Night Football with a rookie quarterback playing in his first game on the road, then they have bigger problems than that. So I went win with that as well. Cowboys back in Soldier Field, 3:25 start. What do you think of the Cowboys? You never know what to expect from the Cowboys.
Yeah, you don't, and that's it's another. Again, they get the 3:25 slot for that. So I think they might. I think this is where they might be able to pick up just a shade of momentum. I think they get that one.
Okay, I agree with that as well. I'm not sold on anything the Cowboys do until I see them do it. Vegas, I think, is sneaky tough. I think this is one of those games that a lot of Bears fans are like, well, Vegas isn't very good. We're going to get this win. It's on the road. It's a 3:25 game. Pete Carroll's known to be a very good coach. Geno Smith is a competent quarterback. That's something it's just a different looking Raiders team. What do you think of going to Vegas week 4?
I think they get that one. I think they go to 3-1. I think they do that. I think they go to 3-1 before the bye. I think that's one that they get.
Normally, I say when I can't decide between the games and I got 2 games that are coin flips, I just flip it. I just give 1 to one, 1 to the other. I gave the Vikings game to the Bears, so I'm going to give the Vegas game a loss. So I think they split those games. However it goes, I don't know. Week 5, there is no losses to be had. The Bears sit back, relax, and root. I always teach my kids on bye weeks, we just root against people. We're just negative when we root against the Packers, and that's what Bears can do and all that kind of stuff. Washington, Monday Night Football. I don't know if I'm sold on Washington yet. And I'm not saying that they just came into Detroit and beat Detroit. I get that. But man, oh man, like, is there a regression year 1 to year 2, like maybe CJ Stroud saw last year? Your thoughts on this game? And I feel bad for Bears fans because you're going to see that damn Hail Mary like played over and over and over again.
I mean, the Chargers put it in their schedule release, and they don't even play the Bears.
I know.
They did that. I think Washington wins this game. I think this is a lot of. I think there's going to be some. I think Washington wins this game. I think they get this one.
Yep, I will too, but I think it's going to be a closer game than people think, or I think it's going to be a really good game, and I will watch the Hail Mary over and over again and laugh. Saints at noon, back at home, maybe the easiest game on the schedule. That in Cleveland, they take care of business at home, don't they?
Yeah, they get that done. I think they win that one.
Yep. So win against the. So right now you got the Bears 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2. I have them 3 and 3. Baltimore, Cincinnati, back to back. If I'm a fan of the Bears, I look at this saying we got to figure out a way to get one of these 2 games. Is that the best way to look at it if you're a Bears fan?
Probably for me if you can split it, and I think it's going to be hard to get either one of those. Those could be very difficult games. I think now you're getting into the meat of the schedule where you maybe have a little bit of that optimism early. That's going to be a really difficult stretch there. Those two games are against two teams with a lot to prove. Baltimore has been they've been knocking on the door for a while. Cincinnati, they're now a couple of years removed from their Super Bowl, so they're looking at trying to save an era here, and so we'll see. I think that's a tough stretch there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears lost both of those.
So do you want to go loss?
Loss. So I have it. So I've had 4-4.
I do too. I have them at loss as well. Giants at home. I think the good thing for the Bears is some of the easier, quote unquote, easier teams are at home, which makes life a little easier. Giants at home. I don't even know who their quarterback is right now. Thoughts on the Giants at home?
They probably get that one. I think this is one they get. I think this is one of those at home. Bears can come back, resettle a little bit, get things back together.
Then they go to the Vikings, a noon game, week 11 at Minnesota. Probably two different things here. Caleb's more comfortable in the new system of what Ben Johnson's doing. And then from the first time around, J.J. McCarthy most likely has 10 starts under his belt instead of starting his first game in the NFL. So I think a different looking game from the first game around. How does it look when it comes to the scoreboard?
And I think you probably have maybe a little bit more of an offensive game because of that, but I do think the Vikings get this one. So back to even.
Yep, I would say that the same thing. If they lose, I think they split with the Vikings, which would be good. Steelers at home. Is Aaron Rodgers coming back to Soldier Field?
I don't know where he is, but I'm always wary of the Steelers because of their consistency. Look, they haven't won a Super Bowl in a little while. They've been void of a long playoff run, but they're still really good every year, and they just don't fail. I think this is one where Pittsburgh gets them. I think Pittsburgh gets them there. I kind of look for a loss where you might, Bears fans might look and go, oh, that could be a win. At least right now, again, we talk about this being so early. That's going to be a really tricky one. That's a tricky game.
Larry, we will not hold you to any of these picks come November. I promise you that. But I'm the same way. I believe that because it's the Steelers, you got to prove it if you're the Bears. I got them a loss as well. A Black Friday game, a fun Black Friday game in Philly. I don't have the Bears pulling a big road upset yet. Is this where they pull a big road upset?
I don't think so. Philly's going to be really good again. And again, I think if you're the dream of the Bears, is to be where the Lions and the Eagles are, where you have a fair shot to win 90% of your games. I don't think the Bears get it. I'm very curious to see how this plays out on the Black Friday game. I'm trying to rack my brain when the Bears have played a Friday game, and it's not coming to me. So I think that they take that loss. I think they take that loss to me. And I have that putting them at 5-7 if I've tracked it right.
Yeah, I think you are, and I have a loss as well. At Green Bay, Lambeau Field, I feel like Ben Johnson's going to get a road game in the conference. And that's just a guy who's watched Ben Johnson for a while. And as a Lions fan, I'm hoping it's not week 2. So maybe it's going to Lambeau Field, a place where Caleb Williams doesn't lose, Larry. Yeah. He does not lose at Lambeau Field.
Yeah, maybe, you know what? I've tried to think about it. I think maybe the Bears get this one. I think the Bears may get this one at 6-8.
I'm going to give them a win as well, just because I don't like the Packers as much as I like the Bears either. Browns at home, better get this one because it's a gauntlet to end the season. So we both agreed a win against the Browns.
So I've been at 7-8.
7-8, and I think I flip. I think I have 6-9. Maybe I don't. Okay. Yeah, I do. I have one more loss. Yep. So we'll count them up here. And then, okay, so Packers at home, TBD. Do they sweep the Packers? If you got them beating the Packers, does the Packers return the favor?
I think that they return the favor at home. I think that that's going to be a split series. I don't know which game's going to go there, kind of depending on which way the momentum flies, but I do think that they split. I think the Bears can get one from Green Bay this year. I'm just going to reverse it. They'll get one at home. They'll get one on the road in Green Bay, and they'll lose it at home. It's something they actually did, oddly enough, in the I don't know if you remember I think they did that in the Cade McNown era where they won a game at home and then lost. They win a game on the road, and then would lose at home.
I'm going to give them a win. I'm going to say they sweep the Packers. And I hate the Bears, but I have them sweeping the Packers and then hopefully getting right for what comes after that. I was with you when you started talking, when you kind of went over their schedule. I don't know why there's this thought process that the Niners aren't going to be – I don't know why people think they're going to be bad. I don't know if they're going to be the Niners of a couple of years ago, but Shanahan's fantastic. They still have George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy and a decent defense and all that kind of stuff. I like San Francisco. I think this is I don't think this goes well for the Bears. Your thoughts on going to San Francisco?
No. It isn't, and I don't think this goes well either. I think that they take this loss here personally. I think this is where they do it. I think San Fran's got a lot to play for, and like Cincinnati, they're playing to save their era. They've been on the doorstep now really since the 2019 season of winning a Super Bowl and have been awfully close. So they've been really close a couple of times. They're fighting for their era. So like I said, that's going to be a hard game. San Francisco is going to be a hard team to play this year because of what happened last year and how close they've been before.
So you have them right now at 7-9.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then I gave the Bears a victory at home against the Packers because I don't want them to beat my beloved Lions. So I, please to the Lord above, have the Lions winning this last game. Your thoughts on a, I guess, meaningless Week 18 game for the Bears if you have them right now at 7-9?
Yeah, unless something goes crazy or things go crazy where you would have a chance for an 8-9 to get in. But I think the Bears get this. And this brings me to my prediction for the year of 8-9. I don't know how it will go like this, but right now 8-9 is about where I'm landing. I've told people when I've been talking to, I said it seems like in my mind the Bears are landing around the playoff line. For me, that's 7-9 wins. That's just where it seems like. I think the best case scenario for me would be as the Bears would surge as that late stretch is going on. So I talk about these losses. Maybe you lose at Philly by less than a score. Maybe you have a close game with Pittsburgh. Maybe you have a close game at home with Green Bay. Maybe these are close games against the 49ers because I don't necessarily think that the super pressure's on Ben yet. It will be there. We're talking about 1 year where that pressure's off. But I think that for me, 8-9 seems to make sense because A, the difficulty of their schedule, B, a likely adjustment period. I know my optimistic feeling about this year comes a lot early, but that's when their schedule allows it, at least as to how we see it right now on May 15th. So I think that there's a lot of things to do here, but right now that's where my mind is landing, about 8-9. And maybe part of that is me giving the benefit of the doubt to Ben Johnson that what he can do with the Bears is going to be able to elevate them to those extra 3 wins that they didn't have last year, with the potential to maybe do some more if some things work out.
Yeah, I think the optimism around the Bears is warranted. The schedule kind of tampers it a little bit or brings it back down to, because it's a difficult schedule. Before I let you go, I've been known to be a Caleb Williams hater, and I'm not. I think it's a bad rap that I get. And I think he's a talented young man. I don't think he's proven anything yet at all. How much pressure's on him right now? With that, because last year he was walking in as a rookie with the best, supporting cast around him. Nobody took into account the offensive line wasn't very good. And then now they fixed that, and they went and got an amazing guy as their head coach that loves the offense. How much pressure's on him? Does he need another year? It's got to be a market improvement, correct? From year 1 to year 2?
You would expect it, right? I would think that you would expect some improvement from him. And I agree with you. I think he's a talented individual. I think he's his own unique guy, which I really enjoy about sports personalities. I love it when people are their own unique person, their own personality. Success does not have a mold or a model. So people will look at random things and say, oh, this isn't there. I think Caleb is great. I think he is a great leader. I think he's got a chance to do something very special. Is the pressure on him? The pressure's here. Right now, he's got to produce, but he doesn't have to win a Super Bowl yet. It's very quickly, like it is for Ben Johnson, going to be here fast because it's the NFL. There's not patience. And general manager Ryan Poles has been lucky. He's had the greatest cushion or buffer that a lot of GMs do not have because of the fact they had to tear it down after Ryan Pace when, although I think he did some good moves when he failed at quarterback, he then had to chase for a few years, causing them to go into salary cap hell, which they had to dig out for a few years. So I think for me, Caleb is like Ben. There is moderate pressure this year. You don't want to be terrible, but I do think that there will be higher pressure and ramped up pressure sooner than later. You get this year to a degree. You will not get next year when 2026 comes around, especially if the Bears show the progress that some hope that they will. Yeah. Now you will get that chance where you will really feel that pressure.
Larry, I know you got to go. Tell people how to get your content, get your thoughts when it comes to the Chicago Bears and everything else.
So I do something now called Sports of a Certain Age. As somebody who was in media for 21 years, I have to decompress how I view games, how I view things a lot differently now, as not being like a rabid super sports fan or someone in media who is engaged every single day. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you call it, at Hawley Sports. That's Hawley Sports, all one word. You can find me on Instagram at Hawley80. You can find me on TikTok, again, at Hawley Sports. And soon there will be a YouTube, Sports of a Certain Age. I'm going to try to start a podcast or a show. We'll see how that goes. But you can find me there. Facebook, just type in my name and you'll find me. And all my stuff goes there as well.
Love it. And he's very interactive. He if you follow, he follows. And I appreciate you doing this. I'm going to bug you again, if that's okay.
Please. Anytime. Thank you. It means a lot for me. It's a privilege for me to be on the show. I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it. Larry Hawley joining us on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We appreciate you. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. We got a lot more to get to on today's show. Coming up after the break, we're going to be joined by another familiar face, Greg Armstrong, and much more straight ahead on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
Quad Cities, are you brave enough for halfway to Halloween? Friday, May 16th, the Steamwheelers battle on Tulsa in a night of haunted hits and bone-crushing indoor football action. It's spooky fun for the whole family, complete with a haunted house and high-flying IFL football that'll leave you howling. Snag your tickets now at steamwheelersfootball.com/tickets and come get scared and entertained. Friday night, May 16th, presented by Asylum of Mad Dreams and Slick Willie Radio.
The PGA Tour swings into the Quad Cities again this summer, and you don't want to miss it. The John Deere Classic brings golf, music, magic, and more to TPC Deer Run, July 2nd through the 6th. Wednesday, July 2nd is Youth Day, and ages 15 and under are free all week, making it perfect for the whole family. Stick around after the golf on the weekend for the concerts on the Course Series, featuring country superstar Dierks Bentley on Saturday, and Grammy Award-winning Zac Brown Band on Sunday. Come for the golf, stay for the party. Visit JohnDeereClassic.com to get your tickets before they sell out.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It is a spring Thursday, feels like a summer Thursday here in the Quad Cities, and if you think summer, you think the start of high school football, fall right around the corner. So I figured what a better time to chat with our good friend Greg Armstrong from View from the West. Hi, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. It's almost football season, but right now we are in the thick of baseball. I know you know it, but my son's playing. Both my boys are playing now. I have one in rookies, and Casey, the older one, is playing, the travel routine as we know so well.
So I have 3 doing travel ball this weekend, and Greg, my wife wrote it down. We have 10 pool play games, 10, because it's like,
you do it.
It's a Hitmen tournament, and my 10-year-old plays for the Hitmen. So in order for everybody to get 3 pool play games, they need an extra team to play. So he gets 4 pool play games. And then the other 2 have one has 2, one has 3. So maybe it's 9. I think it's 9. But that's just pool play. And it's like, man, why did I quit my job? Why can't I have the excuse of having to cover sports this weekend so I don't have to do it? So, no, I'm kidding. But no, it's a wild, crazy time. And normally on Thursdays, we do Throwback Thursday. And Greg's not a throwback, although he is a throwback. But we have him on all the time. Next week, we're going to be joined by Angie Sharp. And I'm super excited about that. Some logistics with some things. So Angie's going to join us next week. We had Denise last week. We had Jim Mertens has been on, Jason Feckner. I feel like it's the WQAD reunion tour. I need to throw somebody that's not WQAD in the throwback days. So, but I figured a great time to chat with you because I see this on social media on Fridays. It's 15 Fridays till football's here. I know it seems like the season is a ways away, but we were just talking this is late in the process of summer stuff gets started in July. Things get rolling here pretty soon.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to plug any coaches listening. I want to go out this summer and catch some 7-on-7. I want to do some kind of video previews, some interviews with coaches during their 7-on-7s. If you get a collection of schools all together, we could talk about 4 or 5 different teams. So no, I'd never done that in years past, but I'd love to get a chance to do that. If I'm sure there's different teams hosting, different events. So whether it's a 1 day or a week long or whatever they do. But no, you're right. It's right around the corner. I see. I always reference Edgy Tim puts out a thing every day or every Friday of how many days left till high school football season. So we're there. The countdown is getting smaller, but which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do want to talk to you about, and we got some high school stuff to talk about. But I had Dan Pearson on Friday. And it was awesome. It was, and I don't know to tell you, one of the best human beings in the world. He's the GOAT. He's one of the best. If there's a Mount Rushmore of Quad City sportscasters, he's one of the first people on there and all that kind of stuff. But he's just a better human being. Watching him on here, because I know you're watching because you love the show.
I was watching.
Just to see him and hear those stories has got to be fun because we reminisced a lot. And it was a glory days of Friday night football and what they did on the highlight zone and all those kind of things.
Yeah, it was funny, watching the interview that you did, and I've had him on my show before and talking about kind of where it all got started and kind of how it got up and rolling and what it turned into. And, after watching your interview, I can't help but feel so grateful that I landed in the spot that I did in the Quad Cities, right? Because coming out of college, I had never been to this area. I was just applying for jobs basically all over the place, a lot in the Midwest, but kind of anywhere. And this was the job that, that I found, or this was a job that I was hired for at KWQC as a morning photographer. So not sports related, just to get my foot in the door. I really wanted to do sports, and to land in that spot that I did, to have Dan Pearson, to have something like the highlight zone that I could help out with on a Friday night. Basically, if you showed interest and you wanted to help out, they were going to have you in on a Friday to shoot. And so for me, that was perfect. That was a great outlet to get involved in sports. And with people like Cuff was there at the time, Bully was there. With the rivalry against Matt Randazzo on the other side of the river, it was great. Couldn't have worked out any better.
Speaking of Brian Stocking, did you see what he brought me? I got to get it up somewhere. Is that not the best?
Yes.
He hasn't.
That was.
Go ahead.
That was his profile picture on X for a while, I think, or on Facebook.
Well, And it's funny because you knew he was watching the show because he was live texting me the show later when he watched it. And he's like, and the best text he sent, and you can kind of see it. I said on the air, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the same trench coat that he wore on the score last year. And he texted me, yes, it's the exact same trench coat.
Oh,
so
you nailed
yes,
it.
I do have confirmed that trench coat is probably, and trench coats aren't they done now? Like, are trench coats still a thing?
I'm going to be honest. I was never really a trench coat guy. I mean, so I don't know.
You didn't need to say that. You don't seem like a trench coat guy. There are a few, like, what was it? Somebody, I don't want to put a name to it. It was like, oh, I'm not, yeah, it's YouTube, whatever. It's like he came on and he's wearing this trench coat and he's like, I'm afraid Stockpile's going to open up his trench coat. Anyways, I'm going to stop before the visual gets too bad. But no, I really enjoyed having him on. And I want to talk about because we're recording this evening a podcast for View from the West that I'm really excited about. I don't know how it's not going to be anything but controlled chaos or uncontrolled chaos, but talk about the concept, and I think people are going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, so I had, like I said, I had Dan Pearson on a couple of years ago in the off season to kind of talk about his career and everything he's done in the area. And then, side note, we did a podcast when we were with The Score at WQAD, a kind of like an episode that was all about behind the scenes. You remember it was you and I and Cuff and Johnny Gendrich. We sat around and talked about what goes into a Friday night, how we plan it out, how we go out and do it. And so kind of like morphing those two like ideas from the past together, I really wanted to bring Dan in as kind of the creator, you know, the guy who created all of this in this area and got it all started. And then you, who interned under him and then worked, you know, so many years at WQAD and starting and getting your own version of that up and rolling to where it's at now. Obviously, Cuff worked at both places as well, along with myself. We're going to have Nick Bull on because he was, you know, the guy I worked with when I first started. Probably my best friend in the business when we got started early on. I mean, he kind of took me under his wing. And quick side note, they hired me as a second photographer in the mornings because Bully was doing it and they wanted one extra. And Bully told me years later, he's like, I hated it. I hated that they hired somebody else. I didn't want somebody else there in the mornings. Like it's like, I didn't want to be bothered. And so, it worked out okay. It worked out okay for us. So
where does Mitch fit into all this? Like, I don't get that part.
So, okay. Mitch interned for the Highlight Zone.
He did?
Actually,
I didn't know
that.
No, I know. I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm just giving him a hard time.
You knew that.
I know.
He interned for the Highlight Zone, and then he actually went out with me. He went with me to a couple games with WQAD.
I remember.
Years later.
No, I know.
So,
I'm just giving him a hard time.
So we're going to have Mitch is actually out of the loop tonight to record, which is a bummer. But as you said, there's going to be enough chaos.
Then I'm out. If he's not, no, I'm a Mitch guy. You know that. Like, I want you to do the. Are you opening up the shop this year for the View from the West, the clothing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want a shirt that says I'm a Mitch guy, or I'm a Greg guy.
Okay.
And then find out who sells out more.
That's interesting. That's
just a thought. Just a thought. I might just buy one of each and wear the one that I'm happiest with at the time, who I'm agreeing with the most. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea to do those kind of things too. And it's funny because people say it was probably a former, I say boss, coworker of mine, not my favorite person, that would always be like, I don't know why he acts like he invented Friday Night Football and covering things. He didn't. No, he did. Like, he legitimately did. No, like, yes, we get that people have high, but like he did. He was the one who was the first guy that was like, hey, he talked about it last week. I'm going to start a 15-minute show. You know, the anchors, he even said like he was afraid after a couple weeks that it was playing, they thought it was playing out and that it wasn't, or they were worried. Management was worried that it's kind of run its course and it didn't. So yeah, he did. He's the godfather of it all. He has a lot. He's so modest that he hates hearing this, but like he started it and we have him to thank, sometimes to blame, depending on how kind of mood we're in. But no, he's the best of the best. So so it's yourself, me, Bully, Cuff, Pearson,
and Stock.
Oh man. Oh my goodness.
So
I gotta figure.
I will do my best to corral it all. But there you go. Yeah, I will do my best to keep it all like in a flowing conversation. I can't guarantee anything, but yeah, to your point, like what I really want to do is just talk about like what went into those Friday nights and kind of what made them, so memorable for us, being part of it and just being able to highlight, high school football and getting out to the communities and, just doing what we do on a Friday night. And I think it'll be a fun conversation because there's, a lot of stuff you saw on the air and there's a lot of shenanigans that happened, behind the scenes that I think are worth telling.
I feel like at one point that was like kind of like the Monday Night Wars. And
yeah,
I mean, it really was. And like, I think we were texting and Mitch was on it too. Like there's different eras with all of it. There's no doubt in my mind. And I interned for the Highlight Zone for, I think, 2 years, maybe it was one. I think it was 2 different seasons, football and basketball. Might've been 2. College days are a little blurry sometimes, Greg. But anyways, but like Dan was the go to the goats and like what they did, I'm the first person to say, but like I wasn't my era. I watched the Highlight Zone kick my butt for years and I was cranky and salty about it. And then like I talk about nowadays where just 2 years ago or last year even, Greg was with us and shooting and Dan was there and Cuff's there. And finally we convinced Stockpile to come over because he was so loyal.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, the loyalty's with people, Stock, and like the people over here now. So come over here. So anyways, it's a really cool thing. And like how it's evolved and how the area, I say all the time, but like, I don't say this negatively, but it's spoiled. And Dan started spoiling the area. It's not that way in most areas on what fans and what high school kids get. So it's really cool. There is some go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, and don't you think you kind of mentioned it, like the area is spoiled. And I think part of that, you referenced the competition that we kind of had when we've joked about it. But don't you think that competition made us better? Because
100%.
In some ways, if we weren't pushing to get to so many games, then the competitor is thinking, or if we are pushing to get to so many games, the competitor's thinking, well, I got to try to get to at least half of those or, 75% of those. And I think if that didn't exist, there wouldn't be the urge or the need to get out and get so many stories, get out and get so many games. I think that competition over the years has led to a lot of great content.
Absolutely. And it also evolved. And the days of what Dan did when it was just highlight, like it had to evolve into an evolution enough of like View from the West. Like now people want that reaction. They want to know about, they were at the game or they saw the highlights. And that's what we tried to do like the last couple of years at WQAD was stay at games the whole time. Stay there the whole, 45 seconds of first quarter highlights sometimes isn't enough when it's Rocky Moline and all those kind of things. And so it's also evolving, changing, tweaking, talkbacks, all that kind of stuff. And it goes back to what you and Mitch do, because what you do on the React show, but then each and every week is basically give fans what they want. And they want to hear about their kids and their team and all that kind of stuff. So it's evolved. It's fantastic. It's a sickness. We talk about that all the time as well. There is some high school football since we last talked. Last time you were on the show, we were yelling at each other at a bar, which isn't rare. No, I'm just kidding. But we were at the remote show. The remote show we did over at Oscars, and we talked a little bit about Pat Elder. And you've talked to him, I believe, since then, and I've talked to him since then. You haven't yet.
I haven't scheduled. I haven't interviewed him yet. No.
And he was on here as well. But talk about a great hire. And I know the Bureau Valley superintendent, maybe something like that, had a quote in their paper that said, like, it's a grand slam hire. It is, Greg. Having a Pat Elder with his background, with his success, 18 out of 23 years, he's been to the playoffs, great success at Ridgewood. That's a really good get for a guy that just simply knows how to coach. Like he's a professional coach when it comes to getting the most out of high school kids. Your thoughts on what Pat Elder means to Bureau Valley?
Yeah, I think it's a great hire, and I think that really what the funny thing is, Bureau Valley and the area needs to thank the football players at Cambridge or Ridgewood back a few years ago when Pat Elder was simply teaching at the high school. He wasn't coaching, and some of the players knew that he used to coach, and they went to him and said, hey, like, would you come coach us? Like, we need a coach. You used to coach. And so it's a really cool story that the players kind of like went to him and just asked him. I want to talk to him someday about that story because it's kind of cool that he I don't know if he wasn't necessarily looking to coach, or certainly hadn't, formally approached it yet. And the players asked him to. And now look where Ridgewood is at, or where they've gone. And now to get to Bureau Valley, I think, is a great landing spot for him. It's a great landing spot for that school that under Coach Pistol was slowly building. They were getting back into, where you want to be in the playoff mix near the end of the season. They didn't get to the playoffs, but I think they're right on the doorstep of it. And this is a guy that, he knows winning football, and he's done it at a lot of locations. And I think, things should play out the way we think they will. I think he'll win some football games there.
Absolutely. One that caught me off guard that we haven't talked about since it happened here on the show is Brandon Johnston stepping down at Sherrard late in the game. And I know if you look at the record numbers wise isn't going to pop off the page at you. But we know, you and I know what he did at Anawana Weathersfield and the success he had, what kind of dude he is, what kind of coach he is. And you could see that Sherrard program, in my opinion, getting better and better. Yeah, like the wins didn't pile up, I think, like Coach Johnston wanted as quick, but the competitiveness of that program sure did. And we can go back to some games against a very good Rock Ridge teams the last couple of years. That came down to the wire. They're just to pop out of that pop out to me right away. So for him to step down as late as it was in the process was definitely surprising to me.
Yeah, it caught me off guard, and I just I wish the best for him. I hope that that he continues to have success just in his teaching career and outside of football. He's started a leadership program out there in Sherrard. It was featured on WRMJ, and it was a really good conversation about, him just raising young men and women, not necessarily athletes or football players in particular, just, trying to provide, something for these kids to become future leaders. And I think that's a great thing. And sometimes I feel like we're making excuses for, like you said, the record wasn't there. But we've covered and talked to a lot of high school football coaches. And in my opinion, Brandon Johnston was one of the most authentic, nice, genuine people that you would talk to when you went out. You just get a certain feel when you meet people and when you get to know them. And he was, genuine. I really felt like when he was at Anawan Weathersfield, when he was at Sherrard, he cared about the program. He poured his heart into it. I mean, from a, insider perspective, trying to gather stats and trying to gather rosters. He was on it every week. He was sending stats. He was sending updates on rosters. He was giving us info we needed, which a lot of coaches, like, those things slip through the cracks, right? Like, they forget to do it. And I don't blame them. They get busy. They have stuff going on. But he was always on top of it. And I don't know. I hope the best for him. And it's weird timing. Yeah, it caught me off guard. And I hope that Sherrard can find somebody, a quality candidate. Because I don't think, like you said, to your point, I don't think they're that far off. The record wasn't there. It didn't materialize for Coach Johnson, but I hope that they can find somebody that can continue to build and maybe get back to, competitive Sherrard football.
Absolutely. I was surprised by it, and just the timing of it was extremely late. I can't fathom one being any later than what that one was, but we'll see. Who knows? But with that being said, you look at the quickness in which things turn around now. What do you guys do? View from the West wise. I kind of want to talk to you about that because we talked about the podcast we're going to record tonight, but you guys are already pumping out content, and you mentioned the 7-on-7. It gets busy, it gets fun, and there's nothing better than Greg Armstrong getting excited about high school football. Like you got like a little hop in your step and everything like that. It's a passion of yours, and I know that things are already rocking and rolling with View from the West.
Yes. So we're putting out about every other week right now, our coaching conversations. So we did a coaching conversation with Tom Yups, the Hall of Fame Illinois high school football coach. It's kind of a passion project for me on this one because it was, from my alma mater, Ottawa Marquette. But he had a great run, going back to his time at Morrison. He coached a little while at Ottawa High School and then rebuilt Marquette from the ground up. Even if, for me, I love it because it's my alma mater, but I think it's a really fascinating story. Marquette was down to like 16 varsity players, and he took over that job, and it was, the program was all but dead. And to bring it back and to get him to where they went to 2 semifinals in a row, they were winning conference titles, they were winning playoff games year in and year out, and it's been a turnaround that is remarkable. And so that's a great interview to kind of, pick his brain and get, into that story with him. But then we've also talked to, last week, Mitch talked to head coach Sterling Newman, Mike LeMay. Interesting story there, too. He was the longtime defensive coordinator at Sterling, now jumping over to his alma mater at Newman and kind of getting his insights on what kind of the Blue Machine tradition is and learning kind of what he's learned along the way as stepping in as a head coach. That's a really great interview. We talked to Toby Vallis from Farmington. Another great interview. He's been in this area, Knoxville, now up closer to Peoria area, covering or coaching at Farmington. Really done a great job with that program, building numbers, building success. And then do you ever run into Aaron Fry? He was a former journalist out at the Galesburg Register.
Yeah.
Sat down and talked to him. His story is really cool.
Yeah, listen to
He was a former newspaper reporter turned IHSA official. So now officiates basketball and football. And so I sat down and talked to him about that transition.
That's awesome.
And for him, it was, once he stepped away from the grind of journalism, he still wanted to stay connected to, the local high school athletics. And so he did that through officiating, and which I know you've talked about it on your show. We've talked about it. There's a need for officials. So someone who's willing to step up and do it, it's great. So it's a really cool story to kind of hear about what the differences are from walking the sideline as a journalist to being on the field and making the call, So it's cool. And he's a great guy. So that was a really great conversation.
And you back up to the one with the Marquette and the fact that, 16 players to the success they had. I mean, that's the amazing part. And hearing those stories behind the scenes, that's why I have a ton of respect for Guy Derricks, whose team sat out and then had success. And gosh, there's probably times that Guy Derricks wanted to quit and say, what are we doing here? Let's just forget it and let's just mail it in. But like, you have a ton of respect for a guy like Guy Derricks who knows there's going to be a rough road. And when the times get tough, or maybe things don't go his way, he's doubled down and stayed and had the success at the end, didn't walk away or anything like that. So awesome stories, great content to go check out. Before I let you go, I have Brett Bielema on the show tomorrow, and I was pretty excited about it. And I said, hey, I got Brett Bielema. You guys had Brett Bielema before I did. View from the West had him on before I did.
So, we didn't have him. I would love to sit down and do a full interview with him.
His voice was on View from the West before it was on here.
It is. So last summer, probably about this time, I reached out to University of Illinois' athletic department and just said, hey, we do this podcast from the western side of the state, and Brett Bielema's from Prophetstown. If he'd be willing to just give us a little intro, just saying, I'm Brett Bielema, Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to View from the West podcast.
That's awesome.
I didn't hear anything. And then somebody said, well, he's out of the office and we'll get back to you. We didn't hear anything. And I kind of thought it'll maybe get lost in the shuffle. He doesn't know who we are. He might not do it. Sure enough, we get one thing sent back. Here you go. And it's an audio file. And he did it. So it was great. Really cool. I would love to get him on the show.
They're really good people down there. Iowa people are really good people. We had worked on it for a while, kind of put it out there for him, and they said they'd get it on his radar. And then I hadn't heard from him, and I had Kirk on a couple Fridays ago, and I was like, well, I should reach back out. And I don't know if it's ironic, but I maybe in the email mentioned that Kirk was on as well. And boom, it was like, let's go. So maybe, no, I don't. Yep. It's probably just ironic, but really good dude. I remember, I've interviewed him several times, but they had a Illini Caravan up here in the Quad Cities, which I think they need to bring back to the Quad Cities, especially with Shauna Green being from Clinton and obviously Brett being from Prophetstown. And he was just as good of a dude as you're going to find. So excited about that. I was excited to say, and then Greg's like, no, yeah, he's on the show. We have his voice on all the time. So,
well, feel free to name drop View from the West and thank him for recording that for me.
I will. First thing I'm going to do, I get 15 minutes with him, but I'm going to waste 30 seconds making sure I name drop you guys. Right. Hey, I appreciate you coming on. This is not Throwback Thursday. It's kind of Throwback Thursday, but Greg's on all the time. And maybe we'll talk to you again real soon. Anything breaks in the world of high school football, especially on the Illinois side of the river, we're going to turn to Greg Armstrong. So maybe we'll talk again real soon.
It sounds good.
All right. Greg Armstrong on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Always appreciate that. And View from the West, if you haven't already, go subscribe. The podcast is fantastic. YouTube channel as well. View from the West pod is where you want to be. So follow on social media as well. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air on a Thursday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here in the Quad Cities. It is Thursday, May 15th. Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to end things a little earlier than we normally do today, simply because I'm preparing for a good interview. We're going to have Brett Bielema on the show tomorrow. So a few things to take care of when it comes to that and a few other things. So a couple housekeeping notes I wanted to kind of bring up real quick. We mentioned our sponsors. We love our sponsors. Right now, Hungry Hobo's doing a gift card to graduate promotion, and it's very similar to what they do during the holiday season. You buy a $25 gift card, get $5 for free. No brainer. So make sure you take advantage of that. I know a lot of graduation parties coming up this weekend, next weekend. I got a couple I have to go to. So a great gift for a graduate or for yourself. Buy their graduate something and get them something, and then toss the $5 one in your pocket and go get yourself a sandwich or a waffle fry or something like that later on. So take advantage of that deal. We thank Hungry Hobo, a great sponsor here of Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We want to thank Larry Hawley for joining us today. Larry worked over 2 decades covering sports in Chicago and in the Illinois area. A big Illinois football fan, he told me as well. But had him on to break down the Bears schedule. It's a big thing. The NFL schedule thing is a well-watched event. So went through the schedule. He had him at 8-9. I had him at 8-9. I thought I was probably very nice, if that makes sense. But a tough schedule for everyone in the NFC North. So go check out which games he had them losing and winning, which games I have them winning and losing. Way too early. A lot can happen, all those kind of things. But a lot of fun to talk to. We thank Larry for joining us. Also, Greg Armstrong joining us today to talk a little, spring high school football, some coaching changes and openings and those kind of things. A late one at Sherrard. So kind of talked about those kind of things. And then we're doing a podcast with Greg tonight for View from the West. Kind of talking about the tradition of covering high school football on a Friday night. Corey Kuffler, Dan Pearson, Brian Stocking, Nick Bull, Greg, myself, we're all going to record that this evening. So we kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit and have you guys listen to that as well. View from the West doing fantastic stuff for high school football on the Illinois side of the river. Monday we had Kendra Lewis, Pat Angerer, and Josh Keener. Good luck to the Black Hawk softball team as they get ready to head down to nationals for the first time since 2014. On Tuesday, it was Andrew Lehman, Kyle Huseman, and Norse David Gamble. And then yesterday, we had Joe Wieskamp on. Great to catch up with him. Also, Steamwheeler Wednesday yesterday, and Julie Hudnall, the head softball coach at Rock Island. The Rocks are Western Big Six champions. So if you missed any of those shows, go check them out. And once again, a friendly reminder, a few weeks ago, we had Kirk Ferentz on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Tomorrow, we'll be joined by Brett Bielema and talk to him and anything else that may break or happen this afternoon, this evening, leading into tomorrow. So should be an interesting show tomorrow. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. One more to get to before we head into the weekend. That'll come your way tomorrow. We want to thank you guys for watching Off the Air on a Thursday. We also want to thank our fine sponsors, as always, for allowing us to do this each and every single day right here in the Quad Cities. Have a great Thursday, Quad Cities. We'll see you right back here with Brett Bielema tomorrow at 10 a.m.